I never believed in haunted houses. Old houses, sure. Creaky pipes. Of course. Weird sounds at night. Completely normal. That's what I told myself when I moved into my grandmother's house. After she passed away, it wasn't some gothic mansion on a hill. Just a quiet two-story home at the end of a dead-end street. The paint was fading, the wood floors sighed when you walked on them, and the basement door stuck a little. But it was home. At least it used to be. The first few nights were fine. Too quiet, maybe the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. But nothing strange. Until the whisper. It happened on a Wednesday. I was in the kitchen washing dishes when I heard it for the first time. Soft. Barely audible. My name, Daniel. I froze. The water kept running, filling the silence between my heartbeat and my thoughts. I turned off the faucet slowly. Nothing. I stood there, listening. The house was still. I told myself it was the TV in the living room. Maybe a commercial. Maybe I misheard something. I checked. The TV was off. Every room was empty. I even stepped outside to see if a neighbor had called out. The street was deserted. I laughed nervously and went back inside. Old houses echo, I thought. Sound travels strangely. That explanation felt thin, but I accepted it until it happened again. The second time was clearer and closer. I was lying in bed around 1:40 a.m., half asleep, when I heard it. Daniel, a whisper. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just deliberate. It didn't sound like it came from outside. It sounded like it came from inside the house, specifically from downstairs, from the direction of the basement door. My eyes opened instantly. My heart began pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I sat up and listened. Silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy. Then a soft creak, like someone shifting their weight on old wooden stairs. I didn't move. The basement door was at the end of the hallway downstairs. You had to walk past the living room to reach it. There was no reason for anyone to be down there. The basement wasn't finished, just concrete floors, exposed pipes, old storage boxes, and my grandmother's forgotten furniture. No one had been down there since the funeral. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. I told myself I was being ridiculous. It was probably the heater, or the pipes cooling, or the house settling. I walked slowly down the stairs. Each step groaned under my weight. The house felt colder than usual. When I reached the hallway, I saw it. The basement door, slightly open. Just an inch. I was certain I had closed it earlier. Certain. I stood there staring at the thin line of darkness between the door and the frame. Cold air drifted out. My name came again. Whispered. Clearer this time. Daniel. From below. From the basement. Every instinct told me to run, to grab my keys and leave. But something else kept me rooted in place. It didn't sound threatening. It didn't sound angry. It sounded familiar. That's what scared me the most. Slowly, I stepped closer. "Hello," I called out, hating the way my voice trembled. No response. I pushed the door open. The hinges groaned softly. The basement stairs descended into darkness. The air smelled like dust and something older. Damp wood. Rust. I shined my flashlight downward. Empty stairs. Concrete floor. Stacks of boxers. Nothing moving. Nothing breathing. I forced myself down each step, one at a time. Halfway down, the temperature dropped sharply, like walking into a freezer. My breath became visible in a beam of light. I reached the bottom. The basement was still. Silent. I turned slowly, scanning every corner. Nothing. Just shadows. And then behind me, right next to my ear. "Daniel," I screamed and spun around. The flashlight beam shook violently. But there was no one there. No one close enough to whisper. No one. I'd hold my chest felt tight. I ran up the stairs, two at a time, and slammed the basement door shut, locked it, and shoved a chair under the handle. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I convinced myself I had imagined it. Stress, grief, loneliness, all powerful things. But I decided to do something practical. I installed a small camera at the bottom of the basement stairs. If something was making noise down there, I would see it. That night, I kept the lights on. I sat in bed watching the live feed from the camera. Midnight. 1 a.m. Nothing. 1:39 a.m. The screen flickered slightly. At 1:40 a.m., the basement light turned on. I didn't even have a working light bulb down there. But on the camera feed, a faint glow filled the room. My heart dropped into my stomach, and then I saw movement. Not walking. Not running. Just shifting, like a shadow detaching itself from the wall. The shape wasn't solid. It didn't have clear edges. But it was darker than the darkness around it, and it was standing at the bottom of the stairs, facing the camera, facing up toward me. The audio crackled, and through the speaker, Daniel, I couldn't breathe. The shadow didn't move its mouth. It didn't have one, but the whisper came again, closer to the microphone. Come down. The basement light flickered once, and went out. The feed returned to darkness, but the shadow was gone. I didn't go downstairs the next day, or the next, but the whispers didn't stop. They moved, first from the basement, then from the hallway, then from inside the walls. Sometimes it was faint, sometimes it was urgent, always my name. One night I decided to test something. Instead of ignoring it, I answered. When I heard my name drift from the basement door, I stood in the hallway and said, "What do you want?" Silence. Then, a pause. As if it hadn't expected that. And finally, a whisper. "You left me." The words felt like ice water down my spine. "I don't know who you are," I said shakily. Another pause. Then, "You locked me down here," my mind raced. My grandmother had lived alone for years. At least, that's what I thought. Slowly, dread began forming in my chest. There were parts of the basement I hadn't explored. A small storage room behind a metal door. It had always been locked. I had assumed it was just old junk. That night, I grabbed a hammer. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I went down the stairs. The basement was silent, too silent. I walked to the metal door. There were scratch marks on the inside, long and deep. This bit at my stomach twisted violently. I swung the hammer at the lock until it broke. The door creaked open. Inside was a small, empty room. Concrete walls. No windows. No furniture. Just a single name carved repeatedly into the wall. Ober and Ober Daniel. 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 Hundreds of times, as if someone had spent years writing it, waiting, calling. I stumbled backward. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. The handwriting. It wasn't random. It was mine. Every curve, every letter. Exactly how I write, and I don't remember ever coming down here. The whisper came one last time, right behind me. Not from the basement, not from the walls, but from inside my own head. "You're still here." The basement light flickered on, and in the reflection of the metal door, I wasn't alone. Something stood behind me, shaped like a smiling. The police found me 2 days later. Upstairs, sitting against the basement door, repeating my name over and over. They said I never had a basement camera. They said the storage room had been sealed for decades. They said my grandmother died alone, but sometimes at 1:40 a.m., I still hear it, whispered softly, from somewhere deep below, calling my name. And sometimes it sounds exactly like my own voice.